We're still in shock after the pathetic 2020 Clippers blew a 3-1 series lead to the Nuggets. In case y'all haven't watched my previous video, I highly recommend you to check it out for a laughter. I broke down how terrible the players were, all bark no bite. Their lack of cohesiveness caused their own demise. How's it going, guys? My name's Wilson. Not only do the 2020 Clippers deserve to get roasted once, but twice. I'll mention them somewhere towards the end of this video. Today, we'll take a look at every NBA team to blow a 3-1 series lead, which happened 13 times. I'll rank them from the 3-1 leads that weren't as bad, going down the list from bad to very bad to very bad to the very worst. Starting with number 13, the 1970 Western Semifinals, the young Phoenix Suns 39-43 overall against the Lakers' big three of Chamberlain, West, and Baylor. Phoenix, the third youngest team at the time, Connie Hawkins, Gail Goodrich, Dick Van Arsdale, and Paul Silas won 3 straight games 2-4, all by double digits. A team some thought might get swept by LA, but the 3 superstars responded by winning the next 3, all by double digits, including a 35-point Game 7 win to prove a statement. It would have been an absolute travesty for the Lakers to lose this series. None of the 7 games were single digits. No shame for the Suns losing to these Lakers. Number 12, the 1968 Philadelphia 76ers blowing a lead to Boston. Back when the conference finals was called the division finals, a total of just 8 teams in the postseason back then. After Russell knocked off Chamberlain many times, Wilt got revenge in 67. The Sixers won 62 games, Boston a bit older, 54 wins, Philly 2 All-Stars, and Chamberlain and Hale Greer for the series. Boston, Russell, Havlicek, and Sam Jones. Hondo averaged 25.6 points, Jones 23.6 for the series. Chamberlain 22, 25, and 7 wasn't enough. I give the Sixers a pass because Billy Cunningham, one of the team's best players, broke his wrist the opening round against the Knicks after putting up over 20 points the first 3 games against New York. A 19-point score, tough break for Philly. Wilt only had 14 points on 9 shots in Game 7, was traded to the Lakers after the loss. Boston went on to defeat LA in the finals. Number 11, 2006, Lakers Suns, the 7 versus the 2 seed. Remembering this series like yesterday, the Lakers shared the ball the first 4 games, played tough defense, slowed the pace down, even got Kwame Brown involved to take advantage of Phoenix's lack of size. After Kobe's incredible game winner in Game 4, Phoenix then pushed the pace faster. The series wasn't even supposed to be close in the first place. After Kobe dominated Game 6, Smush Parker was an absolute travesty. Got completely destroyed by Steve Nash the whole series. Up 1 with over a minute left, tried to go one-on-one, almost traveled, got swatted by Boris Diaw. What the heck was he thinking there? Next Laker possession, after a Kobe bucket, the biggest travesty of them all, Kwame freaking Brown, the final minute of regulation. After a Sean Marion offensive rebound, Brown went flying in the air, leaving a wide open Tim Thomas for 3, tying the game at 105. An awful decision. Instead of jumping up, Brown could have just contested the shot, stay balanced. Instead of panicking, the Lakers might have won the series. Absolutely terrible. A moment I still get angry about 14 years later. Kobe, with the exception of Odom, had a bunch of bad NBA players on this Laker roster, was a stop away from advancing to the second round. 1 possession, needed a stop. Who else but Kwame Bust Brown ruined it all. Kobe's teammates ineffective in Game 7. The game was pretty much over after the first quarter. Kobe scored 22 in the first half. His teammates won 24 of 75 from the field the whole game. Kobe received a ton of backlash for only taking 3 shots in the second half, but the Lakers were already down 25 in the third quarter. The fact that Smush Parker and Kwame Brown had to play 37 and 32 minutes per game for the series showed how awful the Laker roster was. Number 10, the 1979 San Antonio Spurs blew a 3-1 series lead to the defending champion Washington Bullets in the Eastern Finals. Yes, San Antonio was in the East back then. A very close competitive series. Spurs won 48 games, Washington 54. George Gervin had a ridiculous 42-point outburst in Game 4, but lost the next 3 by single digits. Washington more balanced, with 6 players averaging double figures. San Antonio opened up the 4th with a 10-point lead, but Greg Ballard, a dozen points, and Bobby Dandridge, 37 big points, nailed the clutch jumper. 2 of San Antonio's big men fouled out. A furious Duck Moe complained, saying the officials wanted to be against the ABA teams, giving Washington the favorable calls. After James Silence got a chance to tie the game, Elvin Hayes sent his shot back. The game-saving block to seal it, would go on to lose to Seattle in the finals. Number 9, the 2003 Orlando Magic blowing a tragic 3-1 lead to the Detroit Pistons. An 8-1 matchup. The most upsetting part of this comeback, this was the first year the NBA changed its first round format to the best of 7 games instead of 5. A huge blow to Tracy McGrady and the Magic. His best season, averaged 32 points, made the most regrettable decision of his career. His words came back to bite him after taking a commanding 3-1 lead. Says it feels good to get into the second round, only to get absolutely destroyed, abused, annihilated, and humiliated, devastated, lost 3 straight. None of those games were remotely close. 31-point beatdown game 5, 15-point beatdowns in game 6 and 7, was supposed to be one of the faces of the NBA the next 10 years, having Michael Jordan type level potential. McGrady, often in the debate discussion with Kobe, made his second All-NBA first team, the youngest to ever do so. 5 years later, he was never the same after. Outside of T-Mac, Orlando's second leading scorer, Drew Gooden, 14 points a game. No one else averaged double figures. In reality, that Magic roster was awful outside of T-Mac. Number 8, 1997, Knicks Heat. A classic rivalry, physical grinded, intense, punches and fights all around. Pat Riley left the Mecca for South Beach, a slugfest. New York took a commanding 3-1 lead. The players didn't choke, they were all just too physically heated at the moment. Game 5, after PG Brown slammed Charlie Ward WWE style, a bunch of suspensions occurred. 4 of New York's best players, Patrick Ewing, John Starks, Larry Johnson, and Allen Houston, suspended 1 game each. Ewing and Houston for Game 6, Johnson and Starks Game 7, an absolute blow for New York, leaving the bench in any situation, never good in the playoffs. Only PG Brown was suspended for Miami. The Heat were already up double digits with under 2 minutes left in the 5th game. The worst possible timing for the Knicks to lose their cool and disappointment. Miami ended up winning Game 6 95-90, a close one, and a 101-90 Game 7 win. The Knicks were set to face the Bulls for the 7th time in 9 years, but sadly didn't happen. A horrifying collapse with much animosity between the players and New York's former coach Pat Riley. It was only the start of the Heat-Riley era. The Knicks did go on to reach the finals 2 years later, but the franchise pretty irrelevant the next 20 years. Number 7, 2020 Utah Jazz Denver Nuggets. The classic battle between Jamal Murray and Donovan Mitchell, one of the most epic series. Mitchell started off with a 57-point Game 1 outburst, lost in OT. The 2 guards became the first pair of guys to have 2 50-point games the same series. Jazz led by 15 in Game 5, but Denver came back with a 10-point win. Murray a 50-piece Game 6, overshadowing Mitchell's 44. Denver had a 19-point Game 7 lead, held to a 30-point second half, but managed to survive 80-78. Jokic a 30-piece, the deciding factor. Realistically, Mitchell played as well as he did. With Bogdanovic out the entire series, the Nuggets were poised to win. Number 6, 1981 Sixers Celtics. Each team won 62 games, a heavyweight showdown. Honestly, one of the best playoff series all time, perhaps the best ever non-final series. The 2 MVP candidates going at it. Dr. J got the slight edge over Larry Bird. History repeated itself from 13 years before. The first blown 3-1 lead between these 2 franchises. Super competitive, championship aspirations, extremely dramatic. 5 of the 7 games decided by 1 possession. The bad blood between these teams. Bobby Jones the deflection in Game 4, 2-point Sixers win. Celtics point guard Nate Archibald had an uncertain future with the franchise, but Bird responded with 32 points in Game 5, rallied from a 4th quarter deficit. Philadelphia led by as many as 17 points. Boston came back with tough defense. Bird 25 and 16, Parrish 21, Dr. J just 16 points on 5 of 17 shooting. Boston winning 198, forcing an epic Game 7. The definition of physical basketball, the Sixers had an 11-point lead in the 3rd, but Bird ignited his team once again. Another comeback held the Sixers to 15 4th quarter points. Game on the line, Larry Legend drained a clutch jumper with a minute left. Boston survived 91-90, an epic battle for the ages. Both teams evenly matched. Bird outplayed Dr. G in the series. Not a good way to end the season for the MVP, losing 3 straight by 1 possession. Whoever came out on top the series was pretty much the guaranteed champs. Number 5, the 1995 Phoenix Suns vs Houston Rockets. Houston came back from a 2-0 deficit in '94 against these same Suns in the semis. 2 heavy contenders, Rockets the 6th seed, Phoenix 59 wins. The 2 seed, led by Barkley and Kevin Johnson, both balled out, took a 3-1 lead. It seemed like everything was dead in the water for Hakeem. Phoenix held to 13 4th quarter points in Game 4. Houston forced overtime. Barkley missed free throws late. Hakeem tied it. Phoenix had a chance to win but came up short. Rockets Rockets a 13-point Game 6 win. Game 7 a classic. Dreamy and Clyde 29 points each, overshadowed Kevin Johnson's 46 thanks to Mario Ellie's Kiss of Death 3, The Dagger. Rockets showed savvy and championship quality leadership. Number 4, the 2016 OKC Thunder collapsing to Golden State after splitting the first two. OKC seemed to be too strong, too big, too powerful, too physical, too athletic, and too quick. Ran the Dubs out of the gym in games 3 and 4. OKC won by a combined 52 points the third and fourth game, but Golden State responded game 5 despite Durant's 40. Game 6, the biggest meltdown of the Durant-Westbrook Thunder era. OKC, known for blowing huge fourth quarter leads all season, committed 6 turnovers, the final 255. Westbrook 3 of those giveaways. Durant 10 of 31 shooting, Westbrook 10 of 27. Klay Thompson 41 points, 11 3-pointers, refused to let Golden State lose. Westbrook continues to show glimpses of his sloppy plays in future postseasons. The relationship between KD and Russ never the same after. Durant joined forces with these same Dubs less than 6 weeks after. Number 3, the 2015 Los Angeles Clippers, an absolute choke job at the highest of highs. LAC ran the Rockets out of the gym, winning games 3 and 4, a combined 58 points, but got blown out game 5, up 19 in the second half of game 6. Doc Rivers and his team fell apart. Rockets were about to be sent home, James Harden on the bench, the unlikely heroics of Josh Smith. Houston picked him up from Detroit, who released him. The improbable Corey Brewer went off. Doc Rivers' team played terrible offense. CP3 2 of 7 in the fourth. Redick and Austin Rivers both went 1 of 2. The whole team 4 of 22 for the period. Houston easily won game 7. Getting beat by 2 guys in game 6, picked up because nobody else wanted them. The most Clipper way to lose. 2015 was supposed to be the year CP3 and Blake to win a title, but of course an epic meltdown. The franchise's 45th season, a disaster amongst all disasters. Number 2, the 2016 finals, Cleveland coming back down 3-1 against Golden State. Because it was the finals, many assumed this was the worst collapse, when in fact Draymond was suspended for game 5, a game the Dubs needed his defense. Another devastating blow for Golden State. Starting center Andrew Bogut got hurt early game 5 after playing 7.5 minutes. The team's biggest rim protector, an underrated role player who helped set screens for the Splash Brothers. LeBron and Kyrie got to the rim anytime they wanted. After Bogut was out, the duo each dropped 41 in game 5, helped the Dubs to 13 fourth quarter points. Draymond's presence was desperately needed. Cleveland went on to easily win game 6. In the decisive 7th game, Golden State had a black mark in their center spot, left no choice but to start the horrendous Festus Ezeli. Absolutely garbage. Got out hustled and out muscled by Kevin Love, missed point blank shots on the floor the fourth quarter, a big mistake. If Bogut was healthy, Golden State very well might have won. Iguodala, remember, for getting blocked by James, tweaked his back in game 6. Golden State banged up and melted under pressure, but with the injuries and suspension of Draymond, saved them from being number 1 on this list. Number 1, the worst collapse. Yes, the 2020 Los Angeles Clippers, blowing the worst 3-1 lead in NBA history, worse than Golden State because they gave up a ton of first round picks. Forgetting the overrated way off P, the Clippers didn't have any injuries at this time. They were way more talented than the Nuggets, was supposed to win this series in 5, but not only just blew a 3-1 lead, blew their last 3 games by double digits, each one of them an absolute travesty amongst all travesties, unforgivable. The team should be absolutely ashamed of themselves. If y'all watched my last video, you thought I was done roasting them? Guess again. The biggest frauds of the 2020 NBA season, the heavy favorites against the young Nuggets team. Anything short of a conference finals appearance was an epic failure. Even if they would have lost to the Lakers, it still wouldn't have been that bad. The franchise's 50th season without a single conference finals appearance, destined to make it. The Clippers forgot how to play basketball and got slaughtered by Jokic and Murray in every way imaginable. PG and Kawhi played like the Los Angeles JV squad. Outside of Leonard, the whole team thought they were all dead, didn't put their money where their mouth was. Instead of being good assets, the whole team became huge liabilities, celebrating too soon, only to end up in Cancun. Lou Will lost all his skill. Montrezl was a mess. Patrick Beverley played like he was sleeping heavily. Marcus Marcus Morris so bad, even helped the Knicks get a first round pick. Doc Rivers, the king of 3-1 shivers. Steve Ballmer, all that bread, his team shit the bed, couldn't keep him calmer. Many of these teams on this list, blowing a 3-1 lead, were simply not as good as their opponents, who ended up beating them due to injury or a lack of talent. Those other coaches were just unfortunate. While Doc blew a 3-1 lead 3 different times, simply unacceptable. A combination of terrible coaching, terrible play calls, and terrible everything. With that type of roster, it's one thing for the 2016 Warriors to lose to LeBron, combined with having injuries. It's another thing for the Clippers to lose to a team that wasn't supposed to be a real threat. The 2020 Los Angeles Clippers, an absolute triple travesty. Thank you so much for watching this video. What are your thoughts on the worst blown 3-1 series leads? Let me know in the comments below. Subscribe for more content, more good stuff coming soon. I love all of you. See you next time.